They still don't understand. They still crawl around with flowers in their hands and praise on their lips, as if a woman were a porcelain altar. Poor, domesticated men. You were taught to fear her as a goddess and desire her as a prize, but she doesn't want that. A woman doesn't desire your reverence, she desires your vibrancy, your fire, your unapologetic boldness. Female desire is an untamed beast, not an angelic virgin. It doesn't ask, it takes. It doesn't dream, it sniffs. And if she doesn't, feel your strength. She turns her face away, got it? She turns her face away. Comment below on what the city is watching. I want to know where those who still have the courage to hear truths like this come from. A woman senses the need before your mouth even opens. Your gaze betrays it. Your posture betrays it. Your scent cries out for approval, and that repels her more than your flaws. Because a needy man stinks of symbolic death, an emotional corpse crawling for crumbs of validation. I ask you, since when does a god beg for adoration? Since when does a lion cry for affection from a gazelle? A woman desires a man who doesn't need it, because only he can offer pleasure without losing himself. If this video has already hit you in the chest, watch it now. If you can't handle this kind of truth, leave. But if you can, do stay with me. Let me tell you what women truly crave. No, not attention, not gifts, not your rehearsed words soaked in artificial charm. What they crave is the gravity of a man who does not orbit around them, a man rooted in his own axis, whose presence demands nothing and yet alters the atmosphere. Emotional scarcity is not a tactic, it is the natural scent of those who are full, who overflow with self-respect and internal richness. You, modern man, have been tricked by romanticism and consumerism alike. You believe love is something to be negotiated, traded, earned, but love, like power, is drawn to the sovereign, not the supplicant. The less you try to be chosen, the more irresistible you become. Because in a world of beggars, the one who walks away is a god. Remember, when you flood the market with your soul, its value drops to nothing. The man who is rarely seen, whose eyes carry stories untold, whose silence weighs more than 1,000 confessions, that man does not chase, he invites, and only the worthy may enter. Confidence. The modern world has misunderstood it completely. You mistake loudness for certainty, flamboyance for strength, and arrogance for value. True confidence is quiet. It is the soft exhale of a man who knows he is enough even in silence. It is the pleasure in one's own presence, the lightness of being that does not seek validation because it already lives in self-affirmation. You can feel it in the way he walks, steady, unhurried, in the way he listens, without the itch to prove. Women, though trained to admire the surface, instinctively sense the core, and when they feel that calm fire within you, they lower their weapons. Not because you asked, but because you reminded them of something ancient, the presence of a man who does not need the throne to be king. You see, confidence is not decoration, it is direction. The truly powerful do not announce themselves. They arrive. The great tragedy of the modern seducer is this: he performs. Like a trained actor mouthing lines from a script he didn't write, he attempts to manipulate attraction through formulas and phrases, borrowed gestures, and calculated smiles. But the feminine spirit is not a machine to be hacked. It is a storm to be summoned, a mystery that only reveals itself to the authentic. You cannot seduce a woman's soul through trickery. It knows. It always knows. Your energy speaks before your words. Your essence leaks through every movement. If you wear a mask, she will see the strings behind your eyes and recoil. But if you come wild, unfiltered, unapologetically you, then you do not seduce, you ignite. Remember this, you tired imitators of charm. Performance is the language of the weak. Real men don't need tactics, they need presence, depth, an unedited soul that dares to be seen without armor. That is what magnetizes. Not the trick, but the truth beneath your skin. Real seduction is not conquest, it is communion. It is not about taking something from her, but sharing a moment where both dissolve their masks and fall into the fire together. When you drop the need to win, you open the space for both to feel alive. A woman does not surrender to control. She surrenders to experience, and the only men who can offer that are those who don't fear being seen, those who play not for validation, but for the sheer joy of the dance. Do you understand what I mean? When the woman feels she is not being pursued like prey, but invited into a realm of mutual delight, something shifts. Her defenses collapse, not because she is tricked, but because she finally feels safe in your strength and intoxicated by your stillness. Machiavelli would call this a strategic alliance. I call it sacred warfare. Two powers meeting without the need to dominate, just the hunger to feel. Ignorance is the father of fear. And nowhere is this more evident than in the bedroom, where so many men arrive trembling, armed with shame, burdened by silence, driven by fantasies they barely understand. They stumble not because they lack desire, but because they lack knowledge of the body, of the psyche, of the sacred rhythms of connection. And so, they fake it. They compensate. They perform again, this time in the dim light of intimacy, hoping to be enough but fearing exposure. But let me tell you this, true sexual confidence is not bravado. It is competence. It is born not of pornographic illusions, but of deep study, real touch, attentive presence. The confident lover is not the one who dominates with noise, but the one who listens with his hands, reads her silence, and moves as if composing music. You want to be trusted? Then stop arriving as a beggar of pleasure. Come as an artist of it. Come prepared. A general who has studied the terrain does not fear the battle. He welcomes it. Your body is your confession. It speaks what your mouth denies. The way you enter a room, the curve of your shoulders, the stillness or nervous tremor in your hands, these are your truth. No word can save you if your body screams weakness. And make no mistake, women read bodies like scripture. They feel tension before logic. They respond to posture before poetry. So tell me, what story does your body tell? That of a man ruled by fear or one animated by will? You see, I have always said, the soul is not separate from the flesh. It is flesh arranged with meaning. And every glance you throw, every tone you use, either reveals your mastery or your insecurity. You cannot fake gravity. You either have it or you pretend until someone laughs. To command attraction, you must first command your own form. Straighten your spine. Breathe like a king. Move like your presence matters, because if it doesn't matter to you, it won't matter to her. Intimacy is not a transaction. It is not a trade of touches for attention, nor a bargain of compliments for affection. And yet, how many men approach it as beggars at the gates of connection, offering crumbs of flattery in hopes of scraps of warmth? No, real intimacy is an invitation into an experience, a creation, not a contract. A woman in her most awakened state does not want to be won. She wants to be woken. Woken by your presence, by your unpredictability, by the way you carry the storm inside you without apology. She wants to feel that being near you is stepping into something unscripted, something charged with risk and wonder. You think she says no because she is uninterested, but sometimes she says no because you offered her boredom, predictability, safety without edge. Intimacy, like art, requires danger, requires the unknown. And you, man of formulas and fears, offered a resume instead of a revolution. No wonder she turned away. Words lie, energy does not. The woman may hear your compliments, your declarations, your seductive prose, but if your vibe does not match your words, she will feel the dissonance and recoil. She may not know why, but her body will. Because the feminine is tuned not to logic but to vibration. You could tell her she's beautiful 1,000 times, but if you say it from a place of need, of emptiness, of performance, she will taste the rot behind the sugar. But walk in with a grounded stillness, an inner fire that seeks nothing but expresses everything, and you won't have to say a word. She will lean in. Nietzsche once said, "Only the dancer understands life." And seduction is a dance of frequency, not argument, not persuasion. You don't win her mind, you move her spirit. And spirits don't listen to grammar, they respond to rhythm. Detachment is not indifference. Do not confuse the two. Indifference is the cold armor of the weak, those who cannot handle passion so they pretend not to care. But detachment is the fire that refuses to beg. It is the art of desiring without needing, of offering without pleading. A man who is truly detached is not empty. He is full of his own rhythm, his own center, his own abundance. and this terrifies the world, because such a man cannot be manipulated. He is the one who smiles while others chase, the one who walks away without theatrics, and whose silence echoes longer than 1,000 desperate cries. Women feel this. They don't always understand it, but they feel it. The way you do not wait, the way you do not apologize for leaving, the way your absence burns more than your presence ever begged. That is power, not because it wounds, but because it reveals the truth. He who does not need you is the one you cannot forget. Every seduction is a war of perception, not of words, not even of actions, but of the energy you cast into the room before your first move. The true seducer, like the true general, knows that the battle is won before the first step is taken. He crafts his myth, his aura, his silent story. He is not just a man, he is a mystery, a riddle with eyes. And the woman, whether she wants to or not, feels drawn into his orbit. Not because of what he is, but because of what he suggests. He is not loud, but he is present. He is not flawless, but he is certain. And certainty, oh, certainty is the ultimate aphrodisiac. The moment she feels that you know who you are, and more importantly, that you don't need her to know it too, she steps closer. Because now she's not entering a conversation, she's entering a story, one you authored long before she arrived. You keep asking what to say, what to do, what exact phrase might unlock her desire, as if she were a door and you a locksmith. Pathetic. Desire is not a riddle to be solved with technique. It is a fire to be summoned by presence. And presence is not something you learn. It is something you become. It is the quiet authority of a man who is not waiting for approval, who does not flinch under her gaze, who sees her beauty and remains unshaken, because he has seen his own. The woman may test you, challenge you, provoke you, but all she is asking, in her deepest silence, is this: can you hold your ground? Not your money, not your muscles, not your words, your center. If you shift, bend, or plead, you are nothing to her. But if you remain, calm, amused, watching, then she knows. This man cannot be moved by beauty because he is beauty in motion. This is what no one tells you. Women are not attracted to your potential. They are drawn to your essence, to how you carry yourself in the absence of reward, to how you act when there is nothing to gain. Because that is who you are, the rest is theater. And if what they see is a man performing, angling for affection, scrambling for attention like a starving dog, they will turn their eyes elsewhere. Not out of cruelty, but instinct. The feminine craves containment, not control. It seeks the man whose emotional spine is unbreakable, whose mood is not swayed by curves or compliments. Be that man, the one who does not chase, not because he's arrogant, but because he doesn't run. He stands, and that stillness, that refusal to be swayed, becomes an invitation stronger than any pickup line ever uttered. She will want to move closer, not to hear your words, but to feel what made you so unbothered. There is a madness in men today, a desperation to be liked, to be accepted, to be chosen. And in that desperation, they mutilate themselves. They soften their voice, dim their fire, twist their essence into a shape they believe will be more palatable, and in doing so, they become invisible. Not unattractive, invisible, because no woman truly desires a man who is trying to become her mirror. She wants the mountain, not the echo. She wants contrast, not compliance. You were not born to adapt yourself into a mold of safety. You were born to erupt, to provoke, to be a force that challenges her comfort and awakens her instincts. But you sold your fire for approval. You feared rejection more than you feared death. And now you walk like a shadow, wondering why you are never truly seen. I will tell you why. Because you vanished yourself in pursuit of acceptance, and the accepted are rarely desired. A man who is deeply rooted in himself becomes sacred, not because he follows rules, but because he creates them. His silence becomes scripture, his gaze initiation. He does not speak often, but when he does, the room quiets, not out of fear, out of recognition. This is what women remember, not your jokes, your income, or your romantic strategies, but the feeling you left in the room, the chill down her spine when you said nothing at all, the way you looked at her not to impress but to understand, the way your touch came not from hunger but from fullness, and most of all, the way you would have walked away if her soul wasn't ready. Because you, unlike the masses, are not chasing moments. You are curating them. This is seduction not as game but as art. And most men will never reach it, because it requires you to build a life so rich, so vibrant, that inviting someone in feels like an act of generosity, not a plea for completion. You think attraction is earned through effort, but effort without essence is noise. You dress well, speak well, act well, and still, something is missing. Do you know what it is? Weight, depth, substance. The kind of presence that makes others question themselves in your silence. That is not built overnight. It is forged in solitude, in the moments when no one is watching, and you choose discipline over comfort, reflection over distraction, purpose over pleasure. Women feel that. They may not articulate it, but they feel the gravity of a man who has met himself in darkness. A man who doesn't need a woman to escape his emptiness, because he has already faced the void and turned it into form. That man doesn't seduce, he pulls. Because his existence is already a force, the rest is magnetism, and no cologne can replicate it. Let me tell you something you were never taught. You are not supposed to be liked by everyone, especially not by the women you desire. You are supposed to polarize, to awaken admiration in some and discomfort in others, because only men who evoke feeling carry true power. If every woman thinks you are nice, you have already failed. Niceness is the death of erotic tension. It is the costume of the agreeable, the armor of the forgotten. The man who moves her spirit is not the one who agrees, but the one who shakes her, who challenges her rhythm, not to control it, but to test its strength. Polarity creates pull, tension creates seduction. If you flatten yourself to be liked, you will never be desired. So be bold enough to divide. Let some reject you, let some call you too much, because those who stay, those are the ones who have felt something real. The tragedy of modern romance is that it has become a negotiation between masks. The man performs strength, the woman performs sweetness. Both wear their costumes, both speak their lines, and both die a little more each time they call that love. What nonsense! Love, if it is to mean anything, must be rooted in truth. Not comfort, not fantasy, truth. And truth is not always gentle. Sometimes it roars, sometimes it offends, sometimes it demands silence instead of explanation. You want love? Then strip. Not your clothes, your ego, your image, your performance. Stand there with your contradictions, your wounds, your hungers, and see who stays. The one who cannot look away from your rawness is the one worth opening to. The others? Let them run. Let them return to their safe illusions. Let them call your fire too intense. They were never ready for anything real anyway. And you, yes, you watching this, do not confuse attention with attraction. The world may stare at you, applaud you, even desire your surface. But true feminine attraction? That does not arise from popularity. It arises from presence, from the sense that you are not moved by her approval, because you already approve of yourself. The woman tests not to destroy you, but to feel you, to sense whether your core trembles or remains. When she says no, she watches what you do next. When she flirts and then pulls away, she listens for your silence. If you react, you're predictable. If you chase, you're replaceable. But if you remain, grounded, unmoved, with a smile that says, "I know who I am," now you have her attention. Not because you sought it, but because you embodied it. Attraction is not something you win. It's something you become. They have taught you to chase, to always pursue what runs, to see retreat as rejection and distance as failure. But what if I told you, retreat is your weapon, absence, your fire? The man who withdraws not in weakness but in power becomes unforgettable, because presence creates comfort, but absence creates weight. And in that void she meets herself, she replays your words, she wonders about your silence, she imagines what you're doing, who you've become, why you haven't returned, and that wondering, that ache, builds tension. You see, the greatest desire is not born in closeness but in contrast. It is absence that sharpens attraction like a blade, not to manipulate, but to reveal. When she realizes you can walk away without resentment, without games, without collapse, that is when she begins to feel not just curiosity but respect. And no woman surrenders to a man she does not respect. You ask me, Nietzsche, what is the ultimate seduction? I will tell you, it is not in the body nor in the words. It is in the refusal to be owned. A man who cannot be possessed is a man who commands obsession, because he exists for something beyond her, beyond pleasure, beyond conquest. His mission devours him. His purpose burns in his eyes. He will love deeply, fiercely, even wildly, but never at the cost of himself. That, my friend, is the paradox that haunts the feminine soul. The man who gives everything but could leave everything behind, not because he lacks feeling, but because he is whole. She knows he would walk away rather than betray himself. And in that cruel, beautiful truth, she finds what no obedient suitor ever gave her: reverence. Not because he kneels, but because he never needed to. Most men beg for connection. The superior man invokes it. Not with force, not with tricks, but with the unbearable intensity of his presence. He walks into the room and the atmosphere shifts, not because he seeks to dominate, but because he is domination refined into stillness. He does not entertain. He does not explain. He exists, and that is enough. The feminine, attuned to the subtle, senses the architecture of his inner world. She knows without words that this man has buried gods and built empires within himself, that he has tasted madness and returned bearing wisdom. And so she is drawn not to his perfection but to his sovereignty. He is not here to convince her. He is here to be, and in that being, he does what no performance could ever achieve. He creates gravity, the kind of gravity that bends desire, shapes curiosity, and leaves silence buzzing with unbearable possibility. The world will call you arrogant. It will say you are too much, that you don't smile enough, don't open up enough, don't worship enough. Good. That means they felt your edge. They felt the sword you no longer sheath to be liked, because the man who chooses truth over popularity must be hated by the herd. I, Nietzsche, have lived in that fire, and I tell you, it is worth it. Better to be feared for your essence than loved for your illusion. Better to walk alone in power than be surrounded in pretense. And if you're still here, still watching, still breathing this heresy, then maybe, just maybe, there is something alive in you that refuses to die in comfort. So write it in the sigh. Comments below: I do not beg, I attract. Let them hear it, let the whole world hear it. You are not here to be chosen. You are here to choose. You were not born to kneel before beauty. You were born to mirror it, to look into the eyes of the divine feminine and say, I see you, but I do not lose myself in you. That is the highest form of masculine presence, to witness desire without drowning in it, to feel the pull and remain anchored, not because you deny the woman, but because you no longer deny yourself. The weak man loves by disappearing. The strong man loves by appearing, fully, unashamedly, with all his shadow and sovereignty intact. And when he gives, it is not to gain, it is to offer an experience, a presence, a storm. And only the women ready to meet that storm will stay. The rest will flee back to the shores of mediocrity. Let them, for you were never meant to be everyone's fantasy. You were meant to be one woman's revelation. And for that, you must first become your own. Now go, not to chase, not to convince, but to become. Become the man whose silence speaks louder than flattery, whose distance wounds deeper than false affection. Become the myth she never expected, the fire that doesn't burn to be seen, but to exist. And if this truth pierced your chest, don't keep it, share it. Subscribe to this channel, not because I ask, but because you know the world needs more of this war cry. Comment so the other wolves know they're not alone. And above all, remember, seduction is not a game, it is an awakening. And if you dare to play it right, and you may awaken yourself. I am Nietzsche. I do not seduce, I reveal. And today, I revealed you.